Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a document that asks a really profound question. It's all about the past, present, and future of India, seen through the lens of one powerful symbol. Okay, let's get right into it.
So the source kicks things off by asking us to look at some symbols we might think are familiar, starting with the historical emblem of the Congress Party, a pair of bullocks. It seems like a simple image, right? But it was chosen because it was meant to connect with people all across the nation.
And then you see the pattern continuing with the old BJP symbol. There it is again, that same theme: the farmer, the plow, and of course, the bullock, or Nandi. So you have two very different parties from different eras, but they both landed on this exact same image to represent their connection to the people. Kind of makes you wonder what's going on, right?
Well, the mystery gets even deeper when you look at the country's founding document. Think about this. On the very first page of the Constitution of India, you don't find a modern political symbol. Instead, there's a seal of a bull from the ancient Indus Valley civilization. That's a 4,000-year-old image deliberately chosen to connect modern India with its most ancient foundational roots.
So you've got politics, ancient history, and now modern ceremony. The source is really pushing us to ask, why is this symbol everywhere? What's the thread that connects a 4,000-year-old seal, the logos of major political parties, and a brand new symbol of state power? What do they all have in common?
And here's the answer the document proposes. It's actually pretty straightforward. The bull isn't just a religious icon. No, it's a symbol for an entire way of life, an entire system rooted in agriculture. It represents the philosophy that's been the bedrock of the subcontinent for literally thousands of years.
Okay, so this brings us to the absolute core of the argument. The document frames this as a fundamental clash between two completely different systems. We're talking two opposing worldviews, two different ways of organizing a society, and really, two possible futures for the country. On one side, you have what the source calls Basava Tattva, which is basically the Nandi philosophy. It's a worldview centered on the bull, representing a natural agricultural way of life. And on the other side, you have Taila Tattva, the petroleum philosophy. This one's centered on oil, representing an industrial, machine-driven society. Now look at how the source breaks these two down. The Nandi philosophy is based on a living, renewable energy source, the bullock itself. The argument is that this naturally creates a self-reliant and decentralized society where power stays local. But the petroleum philosophy, that relies on a non-living, non-renewable resource. And the source argues this inevitably centralizes power and creates dependency on these huge external systems. And this is where you really see the stakes. The document argues this isn't some abstract philosophical choice. It has direct, real-world consequences. The Nandi-based system is presented as one that saves and sustains everything: the soil, the water, the local culture, even employment. But the petroleum-based system, well, it's framed as one that ultimately destroys them all. So if the stakes are that incredibly high, what's actually happening to this traditional system? Well, that leads us right into the central crisis that this document is all about. The fact that this foundational, bullock-based way of life is vanishing and fast.
The source puts out this absolutely staggering number: an 80% loss in the nation's bullock wealth in just the last 20 years. For the author, that's not just an agricultural statistic. It represents an 80% destruction of the entire Basava philosophy and the whole way of life that it supports.
So you have to ask, why is this happening? Well, the document points to 5 key reasons. Things like a total lack of financial security for farmers who rely on bullocks, the systemic push for tractors and chemical fertilizers, and welfare policies that just don't value traditional farm labor. It also calls out an education system that ignores this knowledge and, interestingly, a tendency to frame these very real economic issues as if they're purely religious ones.
But this document isn't just about pointing out a problem. It's also trying to propose a solution. It makes a direct appeal, assigning very specific jobs to 4 different groups in society, arguing that the only way to revive this system is if everyone does their part.
First up, it's a call to the farmers themselves. They're urged to use their political power to challenge leaders directly and vote only for people who will actually commit to creating laws and policies that protect and increase what the source calls the nation's Nandi wealth. Next, it turns to the scientists, giving them a really critical role. Their job, according to this, is to explain the ecological and scientific reasons why this system is so necessary. It's about moving the conversation beyond just tradition and spelling out why this agricultural model is absolutely essential for our long-term survival. Then, the religious leaders are asked to connect faith with action. The document wants them to frame saving the Nandi lineage not as some abstract religious duty,
but as a practical, urgent necessity for the future of their communities. And it gives them this incredibly powerful line to use: if this system collapses, no God can save us.
And finally, it all comes down to the political leaders. The document basically says, look, after you've heard from the farmers, the scientists, and the religious figures, the buck stops with you. You have the ultimate responsibility to create the legal and economic system that allows this traditional way of life to thrive again.
And that brings us right back to where we started, with that powerful, haunting question. It really leaves us to think about the path we're on. By framing Nandi not just as an animal, but as the cornerstone of an entire worldview, the document forces us to ask, what is really lost when it vanishes? And what kind of future are we actually choosing to build in its place?
Nandi ಎನ್ನುವ ಪೂಜ್ಯ ದೇವತೆ ನಿನ್ನ ನೆಲೆ ಶಿವಾಲಯ.